So today I'm going to be overhauling my E36 M3 power steering. Huge issue with these cars is they always leak out of their rubber lines. This is the Chase Bay power steering system. I bought this secondhand for $200. The reason this was so cheap is because one of these lines was leaking. So I had to make a new one, which only took a few minutes. E36 330 I rebuilt steering rack. This was the best option for me due to parts supply. I would have liked to replace it with the Z3 one, but this should be a yellow tag remanufactured. So the first step I would say to do while the car is still on the ground is to get this power steering pump reservoir just loosened a bit. And you can see this is actually on one of the 13mm bolts. There's two. The other one is to the left of it. And the easiest way I found to do that is remove whatever intake system you use, loosen the boot right there. And then there's also one bolt right there that grips onto the reservoir. That's a 10mm. Loosen that a bit so you could actually get a little bit of movement on this. Makes it a little bit easier to get around that coolant pipe right there. But I'm gonna take those off. The car was up in the air. Is undo this 22mm. This might vary depending on which rack you have though, so just double check that. This will drain the fluid from the rack. And then I also did this one right here. This is also a 22. And then up here, a 19, and those are the two on the pump you need. Then there's two 10mm bolts right here. And this should be pretty loose, but there are two connections on the rack right there and right there, and I'm about to hop on those now. Those should be maybe a 19 and 17, I believe. And then just got to take off the tie rods. I'll remove the rack with these two bolts. There should be nuts on the back side of them, so you need to get something on the back on the very top, but you have plenty of room. And then drop this whole rack out, and then I'll swap out all the new stuff. I also forgot you're gonna need to remove two bolts. Well, technically just one, but I want to remove this actual joint right here. So there's two 13 mils right here. Goes through on each side to tighten that down onto these splines, and then there's one more up here, and I've already removed that. But then hopefully once I get the ball joints out and get these bolts that hold it out, everything should kind of just slide out. So this is kind of what it looks like. I mean, kind of what you expect, but there's the mounting brackets, and definitely why this is all up. And clean up the front subframe. This disc is soft, and I gotta go find one of those. So I actually found this on one of my E36 parts cars outside, and it looks pretty new, which is pretty nice. I don't see any cracks. Tie rods, I actually had to reuse the regular E36 ones because the 46 ones don't trust all forums because they do not actually fit through into the connecting hole, basically. So basically you're gonna have to use the E36 one. The main big tube comes off. This is the feed from the power steering reservoir. Comes into the pump here. You got another that runs up here back there. I might shorten this to make it a bit nicer, and runs up to the top of the rack. And then out of the bottom rack, I have this going to feed the cooler, back through the cooler, through this line, back up to the reservoir. And that should be the full system. So many hours later, everything should all be done. Plumbing, I kind of went over that earlier. Biggest pain in the ass, obviously, steering, guibo, UV joint, whatever you want to call that. Huge pain. Slid off pretty easily, did not slide back on, but overall, all done. This is kind of how it looks. Minty. It's been about 6 months now since I've installed the Chase Bay system in my car. I haven't had any leaking, and this is definitely a very viable option if you are swapping out all the lines in your car. I would definitely recommend looking into this to replace the OEM lines. If you enjoyed this video, please remember, comment, like, sub, and I'll see you soon.